communicating here.
Highly doubt that.
Well, it's the fans too. I mean, if the
I mean,
fans
you
are
could have had the
you know, they call out management.
Okay, the owners.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
the firefighter ward.
Right,
Oh,
right. They just hear.
I wonder if that's it. Why was it taken off?
I don't know, the rest of them.
Yeah, they never hear about.
I didn't even notice that.
He wasn't able to.
I thought what it was that
You're lucky since you stopped watching the NFL, you're not upset about the game.
she might have had the length
Oh,
of
I'm
service
telling you, Jeff,
award.
Yeah, that's still in here.
I don't
Yeah,
blame you.
but I maybe
I don't
thought
miss
she
watching
had like,
professional football.
that it was up
one
for a
bit.
vote instead of a first hearing,
Oh.
but no.
Oh, okay. The only reason I watch it is because
Minutes?
Yeah. No, I'm not, I don't, somebody wants to watch it, that's their business.
yeah,
I just got tired of drug addicts, wife beaters.
Unless there's.
that continues because there's a guy that just got fired from one team because he beat up his
Dialogue and if you want more than this,
These people are coddled, given everything.
Oh, yeah. Stick my
They
finger.
don't realize how good they have it.
I hope they keep
Well, yeah, that's our lie. We're
No, not yet. That's coming.
My grandparents.
I mean, I
I don't wanna hear why they want to
through it, but I may have missed that. You know, and two, I could have probably missed my name.
right.
Big transition.
Okay,
Where's the little bags that came?
I gotta clean up my mess here.
That's yours.
Got room for cake tonight.
That's fine.
Didn't have a name.
Well, with the holidays coming up.
Well, my thing was.
So why don't you,
I don't have to, I don't really want the credit.
You're welcome.
I thought it was important.
I don't know.
No, they were in a different
One house, that
Yeah,
house in the corner is very flat.
It tells you.
Those are the only two parcels that
The regular public meeting of the Township of Whitehall Board of Commissioners will now come to order. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll have a moment of silence for our troops serving home and abroad.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I don't think it's in, I don't think it makes much.
okay.
Yeah.
Unless there's other changes.
Whitehall Township has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing and to review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful actions that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities, free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on these protected characteristics. The township, in its land use decisions, does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. I will take a motion to approve the regular public meeting minutes of November 12th, 2018.
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaniger, aye. Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
President Howard.
Yes.
Approval was voted 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Courtesy of the floor.
I think there's nobody that signed in.
Okay. Moving on to public hearing and voting of ordinances, we have bill number 27-2018. It's the second hearing. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to accept a deed of dedication from St. John's Union Cemetery Association along Glenside Drive for the purpose of right-of-way and road construction, and a deed of easement from St. John's Cemetery Association for a permanent utility easement along Glenside Drive in the township of Whitehall, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Questions from the board? Questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger, aye. Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
President Howard.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 31-2018, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for 3-year lease for police servers, including virtualization and other technical services for the Whitehall Township Police Building in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner, what's that guy over there? Warren?
Aye.
And President Howard.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 32-2018, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania adopting the 2019 annual budget and appropriating specific sums estimated to be required for the specific purposes of the township government hereinafter set forth during the 2019 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions from the board? Questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
And President Howard.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 33-2018, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania establishing a fee schedule for the collection of municipal solid waste by the Township of Whitehall. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions from the board?
I had to do that. I was once on solid waste management team.
Perfect.
Okay, just so you know.
I appreciate your experience in solid waste. Any other questions, comments from the board?
That's what should be it though.
First of all, why is this up here? So everybody needs to see your suit. Stop.
If I could just say, the soup belongs with the solid waste.
I was hoping to unsee
I
it.
love it. Yes, I'm gonna unsee it. Any comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 34-2018, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania fixing the real estate tax rate for the year 2019. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Just that it's another flat year, 2.8 is the millage rate, same as last year. So that's great.
Comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none. Father Christmas, pull the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. And Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
President Howard.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 35-2018 is a first hearing, an ordinance amending the Whitehall Township Volunteer Firefighters Length of Service Awards Program. There'll be no vote on that tonight. Bill number 36-2018, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between Whitehall Township and Kelly, Clough, and Bucher and Associates Incorporated entitled Standard Form of Agreement between owner and architect, construction manager as advisor addition AIA document B-132-2009 for architect services in connection with a new police facility, renovations to the existing municipal building, and additional improvements related thereto. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments or questions from the board? I'll make the comment that I only needed to be told once. I got the name right.
you did.
And we
Welcome.
noted that over here.
You noted that? All right, cool. I just need to pull
Big
one.
check marks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I practiced it like 5 times before I. Any comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
President Hauer.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 37-2018, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between Whitehall Township and Dewey Engineering Incorporated entitled Agreement for the Construction Management Services for the new Whitehall Township Police Building for construction management services in connection with a new police facility, renovations to the existing municipal building, and additional improvements related thereto. Do I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second. Any questions from the board? Questions from the floor? Yes, sir. You have to come up to the microphone. We all know who you are, but you need to state your name and address.
Michael D., 647 West Union Street in Whitehall. Excuse my ignorance about these companies. Are these local companies? Are they from the Lehigh Valley, do we know?
Yes.
They both are.
Oh,
The architect
I'm
and the,
sorry. What-
Dewey is in Bethlehem,
Still
and,
a Lehigh Valley.
and, pardon?
It's still a Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, but, the architect is a Hatfield, located company.
okay.
I believe they're also using an engineering firm from Bethlehem to support their work.
Okay,
The name escapes me but I read it in my,
just curious. Thank you.
Talking about Terraform, I think.
Terraform, yes, is the Bethlehem company.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. Any other comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
President Hauer.
Yes.
Bill passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
A public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3033, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Whitehall reaffirming and reenacting the realty transfer tax, the earned income tax, the per capita tax, the local services tax, and the business privilege tax. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
and President Hauer.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3034, a resolution adopting the Township of Whitehall Capital Improvement Program 2019 through 2023, specifically for the 2019 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Clary,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Dutt,
Yes.
and Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
President Hauer.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3035, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to submit an applicant's authorization for agent to apply for highway occupancy permit to PennDOT in connection with an application for highway occupancy permit for sidewalk improvements to be installed along 3rd Street, State Route 1015, to sign the application on behalf of Whitehall Township and to enter into an indemnification agreement and covenant running with the land in connection with said application. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a question. We've been in a situation where We have had a disagreement with the requirement of PennDOT to have the township act as the permittee for the installation of things within the right-of-way, and we've had a concern about that. Lee, do you want to state that a bit more effectively?
And I'm obviously not your legal advisor, Sarah's your legal advisor, but I just have some concerns because for the past 30-odd years, we've had much development along state roads that were private properties, and they were redeveloped, and there were walks either installed or curbing installed, and we were not the permittee. Most recently, we had Mavis Tire, which redeveloped, and sidewalks were installed. Their design engineer did contact me in the process of their development plan and say that PennDOT was asking them to have the township be the permittee for those walks. We said, no, we don't do that. The sidewalks are there. Most recently, St. Luke's redeveloped their corner. They were going to eliminate the two depressed driveways on Shott Avenue, another state route. They went to the department to get a permit to do that work, and the department said the township had to be the permittee. We, again, resisted that, and Frank had some correspondence with someone at District 5 indicating that, you know, if you show us where you're legislatively authorized to require this, then, you know, we'll look into it. They do require us to do that for drainage. We do have to be the permittee. You've done that many times. They've changed their position. Sarah looked into it, and, you know, she has some concerns, and, you know, she feels that we can be comfortable with that. Me being me, and you know that, I have concerns because not only do you have commercial development, you have residential development on state routes. Does that mean that we're going to have to go into these agreements with every residential property owner? And what happens, because the only time that we proactively review the condition of curbing and sidewalks in the township, as you are well aware, is with our street improvement program. We will not be doing PennDOT's street improvements. So we, you know, say there's an issue and somebody comes to us and says, you know, there's a problem with this walk, and they go to PennDOT and say it's on your road. PennDOT's going to say, township, you're the permittee, you take care of it. These are some of the concerns I had, but I, you know, give the disclaimer again that I'm not your solicitor. I spoke to Mike about it. Sarah and I have talked about it. Frank and I have talked about it. I think that they're kind of putting the gun to the head of the developer here and making them stuck in the middle. And you're looking at some redevelopment, some good redevelopment. And I suggested to Mike that maybe we say, yeah, we authorize this, but in the meantime, still try to resolve this with the department. And, you know, unless Sarah wants to yell at me now, so.
I won't yell at you. My response or comment is, you're saying that the PennDOT puts the developer in the middle. In reality, it's the township in the middle.
Right,
Not the developer.
Right, but I think they're kind of holding up the developer,
Right,
saying,
yes.
you have to get the township to sign this.
I would like to know if it's uniform too, between districts.
It's probably not.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if it wasn't uniform between districts.
So is this a mandate created by a bureaucrat in District 5, and basically the state flexing their muscle saying you must do what we tell you to do?
It's PennDOT being PennDOT. Yeah, that's the best I can say it. The best thing I could find that sets forth sort of this requirement is an operations manual from PennDOT that says that if the improvements are within the right-of-way, the municipality shall be the applicant. If it's on private property, then the property owner is the applicant. But that's all I've seen. In some projects, I have seen the review letter come back from PennDOT, and in the review letter itself, it says township must be applicant. I've not seen the review letter for this project. The developer tells me that that's what it says, and I would not doubt that, but I've not seen the actual pen to the paper words. I do think the township is stuck in the middle here. Does the developer have a representative here? No. Oh, Chris McLean is here.
Chris, we love you to come up.
So is this a bureaucrat's interpretation of what they think it says?
It's kind of between a rock and a hard place.
I think Attorney Murray hit it right on the head when she said it's PennDOT being PennDOT. We would certainly love to not have to be here this evening to discuss this with you. If we could convince PennDOT to let us be the applicant, we would certainly do that. But to Sarah's point, admittedly, I'm pinch hitting here this evening. I have not seen the PennDOT review letter, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But as I said, we would not be here unless they were demanding it. We did have our traffic engineer reach out to Brian Boyer at District 5, and he was clear in no uncertain terms, applicant, you cannot be the applicant to the township. You cannot be the applicant for this HOP. It must be the municipality. So we are here, and by necessity of PennDOT's bureaucratic interpretation, bringing you folks into this situation.
And I think we've already discussed that we can't just do a uniform where the township can pass it on down to the adjacent property owner for every project along a state road.
We need the applicant to sign the indemnification agreement in order for this to follow with the property. And the indemnification agreement that is part of tonight's resolution has the property owner signing off, that's Koch's Market, as well as CVS, who is a developer. So we have, one good thing here is we have two parties signing off as opposed to just one. So, for lack of better terms, we have deeper pockets.
I agree with you, Lee. I mean, this is gonna open up a can of worms with all the residences that we have that are on state routes. And we have to do this every time there's development, I guess.
Well, I would imagine, unless you want to be just a permittee and assume all associated responsibility. I don't know what all that
Oh,
entails.
I would never wanna put that on the township.
How did they handle the MacArthur Road Safety Improvement Project with the sidewalks that went in?
We have not done this before.
No.
This is just in the past 6 months
Yeah, about that.
that we're hearing this.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can get some clarification.
And is every municipality in District 5 doing the same thing?
That's my question. What are the other municipalities?
The ones that we
doing?
represent, we've seen the same thing, and we've done the indemnification route. There's really no way around it. It's all, testing the waters here, what's going on.
I would like to know if it's uniform throughout the state.
Would be a good question.
Yeah, you
And
can't-
I just think, just to keep the boards, we're doing this with MacArthur Commons. I anticipate that if you do require sidewalks in that area, you're gonna be the permittee there. And not to belabor the issue, but you have to look at it from the top down. Say with the St. Luke's project, if you're out there and you're familiar with that intersection, there's some substandard ramps there. I highly doubt that PennDOT would have issued a permit for just one corner of that intersection. Once you touch one corner, all of them are gonna have to be fixed. These are the issues that I'm concerned about and what we're getting into. With MacArthur Road, I don't know if you read the editorial or the article in the paper over the weekend with this multimodal thing that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission has going on. Where do they call out that there's gaps? MacArthur Road for pedestrian access. It's a hot button issue. That's just, and again, maybe if that's, I don't know, and I'm not your legal advice, but maybe if, instead of saying, yeah, absolutely not, that if we do agree to enter into this, but we investigate it further and so that we're not holding them up, but yet we still see if we can get answers. And if they can't come back with answers that, that Sarah's happy with, then we'll proceed accordingly. But it's gonna be a bigger issue. I can tell you, I can guarantee that we'll probably have at least 4 more in the next year.
I agree with that. I think we need
How
to
do we
do a little bit more investigation.
How do we pursue it?
Do we direct our legal counsel to continue to pursue this?
Kind of push PennDOT and
Yes.
get some answers.
Thank
How
you.
about at any of the other county organizations, so to speak? Like Lehigh Valley Planning, any of these agencies that can get on board?
Well, I can tell you personally, when I spoke with Becky Bradley and told her of this new initiative, she was kind of taken aback. She hadn't heard of this. Now, whether that's something that she would be familiar with, I don't know. I assume she would. Jeff Reese also is over there, Dennis, as you well know. He was not familiar with it. I don't know. I talked to my, one of my peers in Bethlehem Township for one specific development, and he told me, no, they weren't the permittee for that development. Again, I agree, it's consistently inconsistent.
And ideally, the opportunity, the opportune time to do the sidewalk improvements is when, like, a place like, as development occurs. Right now, we have a sidewalk that goes into grass, no curb cut. or crossing, and I'd like to see it resolved so it's not an impediment to improvements that are needed.
Frank, in your travels between different municipalities, how often has this happened in the last 6 months?
It's rare because depending on where a development falls, if they've gotten through the process and whatnot, which has become excruciating with all the different permitting that you need. I know of 2 in Upper and 1 in Lower Macungie that we've just recently worked with. This kind of fell into line with the stormwater management, where PennDOT made first-class townships responsible for the stormwater controls, unless you can prove that they put them in. So anything new happening was borne by the developer, or the township had to be the permittee. And that's happened in all the first-class townships, and now it's happening to all townships and boroughs. They blanketed that, so the first-class townships are no longer segregated out. And so that was a kind of a common practice, and the identification agreement was actually formulated for that situation. So we've now morphed that into sidewalks, and again, it's happened very rarely in those 2 townships, because I checked with the guys in our office who represent those. It's been very rare because one of 2 things: either there hasn't been that much development along a PennDOT road, as opposed to these big warehouses, things like that, where there's already sidewalk there, or else the sidewalks were required on township roads, which there'd be no involvement. So it depends on where the property is at and what they're trying to do, and if the township even wants a sidewalk. In some cases, they didn't want one. So again, it's all site-specific on how this all works, but we're not the only municipality they're picking on.
Okay.
The, I'm just gonna go on here. At St. Luke's down there,
Yes.
on Shot Avenue, they still have the old entrances and whatnot on
Correct.
Shot Avenue.
Yes.
Now, I was out there the last time that we had some significant snow where it made a problem and everything. What would you do if that was not on that whole configuration, where it would be just normal streets, let's say Sixth and Union or whatnot, that you had this depression and everything, because it was difficult to walk because of the ice and everything. If somebody goes ahead, slips and falls, do they come after us because we permitted it? Do they go after the state? Do they go after?
I'm gonna punt to her.
I'm just saying that this is, because it was difficult even though it wasn't much, but the fact that it was allowed to still have those cutouts for the driveway.
I hate to say it, the reality is we're a sue-happy society. They're gonna sue everybody under the sun. Now the township would likely have a way to get out of it, but there'll still be legal expenses incurred to get to that point.
And see,
So it's just unfortunate.
you were talking about the snow pileup. I mean, ideally in that scenario, when you're taking out 3/4 of the sidewalk along MacArthur Road, the perfect scenario would be to step it back a little bit like Mavis did. What Mavis did was fantastic. I guess we can't require that, but when these developments come, we can ask if it fits in with, like right now, they have 10 feet of landscape behind it to the curb.
You as a board can always ask.
Yeah,
Sometimes from an engineering standpoint, it works out. Sometimes it makes the site so tight that they can't work it. But I think that we have consistently requested that if they can, they would try and work that out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not.
And I think too, just for the sake of the board, I think I mentioned this last time, in the transportation improvement plan, MacArthur Road is scheduled for repaving in the next three years maybe, and that could slip. But the multimodal study might happen after the paving. So ideally, you do the study first, identify where there's defects, maybe get the improvements in, and then, so if there's anything we could do, maybe talk to the planning commission to see if they can move that study up if we want it done.
And I think it's the staff's interest at the direction of the mayor that we actually ask them to put a program on the tip that is a MacArthur Road multimodal study, just unique to MacArthur Road. to get them to buy in. But again, I mean, nothing can happen on a state road without the
Right.
state saying okay, and the state design, they okay the design, they issue the permits. So why we have to be intimately involved on private property is still a concern.
So can we move forward with approval of this with direction to the solicitor to craft language that would protect our rights to decide that we're not going to be accepting this consideration in the future, or something to that effect? I'm concerned about the possibility that they come to us next week and say, hey, we want curb cuts over at Dunkin' Donuts on a road that is their road in both directions, or in all four directions, but order us to go about doing the curb cuts as they have requested we do to come into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So my concern is that we're not giving up any opportunity to resist at that point because we've said yes here.
I think you could approve this. I would handle them separately. I would recommend, if you're going to approve this one, approve it as is. And I already have the direction to try to push PennDOT and try to figure out where they're coming from. I would not recommend making this contingent upon something happening in the future. So that would be where I would suggest you go. If you want to approve this one for tonight, it does not set any precedent. The next guy who walks in the door, you do not have any obligation to say yes to that developer.
Okay. Any other comment or question from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
President Hauer?
Yes.
Resolution passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to approve the contract of Robert Susko as Business Privilege Tax Auditor for the years 2019 to 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye, I'm sorry. I didn't know which one of you seconded.
It was
Me.
Jeff.
Okay. Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren? Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
And President Hauer.
Yes.
Motion passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
A motion to approve the release of escrow for completed and withdrawn projects per Deputy Mayor Myers memo, November 27th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. President Hauer?
Yes.
Motion passes 7 ayes, 0 nays.
And we have a discussion item, the appeal of the street tree installation along new development on Jordan Boulevard.
I believe the homeowner's here tonight. Eddie, if you want to come up? Just give your name and address at the mic and go from there.
Hi, my name is Eddie Fernandez. I've been a resident of Whitehall for about 2 years now. How I found out about these trees that needed to be planted in my yard was coming out at 9:30 in the morning and seeing about a truckload of trees being planted in my yard. My house was built and I moved in December of 2017. Since then, I've gotten a permit for a patio. I've come here to get a plot plan, to use the original plot plan. Nothing was on there. So this kind of blindsided me all around. So I agreed to have 2 trees already put in my yard. They want to put another 3 trees right in front of my house. there's some things that I want to do in my backyard. If those trees are put in there, there's no trucks ever going to be able to be put up pool, anything like that. I have 2 children right now. There's things that I wouldn't be able to get back machinery into the backyard. Thus, I would have to knock a tree down, go through this whole process again, as well as have 2 big trees right in the front of my house. There are already 2 trees already planted. I'm asking for a reason to not have those trees in my front yard.
We have the drawing for which house is yours on this?
The corner.
What's that?
The corner.
Lot
Right
one.
in
So lot 1, okay.
Right in the corner.
And the house front faces Jordan, I believe?
So the side of the house is facing American, and the front is facing Jordan.
Gotcha.
And where are the trees now? Where are the trees now?
There's 2 trees on the side of my house.
Because they're not on this.
Just give him one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a whole row of arborvitae on Jordan. Is that your property? If I'm coming up Jordan.
So I'm at the corner of American and Jordan, so if you're coming from Toys R Us,
I got you. I'm on the other side. I
yep,
got
if
you.
you're coming up Toys R Us past the park on your left-hand side, I'm on the following corner.
Yes.
Yep.
And you said the trees right now are along,
The trees that are there are along American Street.
okay.
How many trees do you have on American Street?
2.
2.
And are they on each side of the driveway?
The driveway is facing towards Jordan.
Yeah, what's shown on the
So
plan.
this print is not what's actually there.
The house, that's just a representation of the house for the, for the subdivision plan. The house as it sits actually faces Jordan, right? So the side yard,
Blue, right?
side of the house
It's
faces
gray with
American.
blue shutters,
Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. Now I know where you're at.
Okay.
So the existing trees now are where?
They're on the side of American Street. So if you're picture Jordan Boulevard here, American Street over here, my driveway goes out this way. The front of my house faces Jordan.
Uh-huh.
They want to put 2 trees right in the front of my house,
So
and then 1 on the side of the
at
driveway.
this point, there are 2 trees on the
Side of the house.
American Street side.
Correct.
That's it.
Are they towards the front, towards the back?
They are in the, I guess, the egress right in between the sidewalk and the road.
Yeah, but are they more towards the corner at Jordan and American, or
No, they're more towards the direct side of my house.
they're more towards
There's
the
one in
rear
the-
of the property?
No, on the side of the property.
Yeah, could you please come up here a minute
Yes,
and
yes,
draw these trees in there?
I'm not sure where this is.
Yeah. All right, here's their American Street side. Where are the trees now?
So the trees are over here.
Like equally spaced?
Correct, yeah, from like here.
All right, so there's probably like one here then and one here. In the distance of the property, they're equally spaced.
Yeah.
And they want
Grape Street's down
one
here.
here, one
Grape Street's here.
Oh, so they want to put 3?
Yeah, they want to put 5 total.
Okay.
So there's proposed 3 in here, somewhat equally spaced.
My driveway
We have,
is here, this is my
this is Toys R Us.
I don't believe so.
Another one up here.
That's in this corner. Jefferson
The shade tree,
Playground.
it's a requirement for new development.
Oh, no, it's
They
further up.
dropped
No,
the
it's-
ball.
it's- No, that's like way over here. No, that's, hang on a second. Yeah, that's right. Here's a
Right, these are their newer.
map, a slight map. Here you go.
I'm confused. Why
Okay,
is it
this
that
is
you
Grape
get
Street down
shade
here.
because there's some trees?
Okay.
And again, I mean,
Then you
they're
come up
not
with
like,
No,
Playground's over here.
dropped the ball on this somehow.
And
They
then
got away with it.
I mean, that was part of what you brought up, that
Union Street's right
do
here.
that. And I understand. Who wants to put the
trees in?
I knew you would have builder. I knew you would
I
have
understand, but
Olive Gardens.
Because they're required to by the shade tree.
of the,
Sorry, right here.
their plan, I guess.
I understand that, but I
Chili's and
mean,
all that.
machinery can go over the
Toys R Us
sidewalk, I
is
mean, to
a
make
shaped block.
operations.
Army
so that
Navy's
you
right
don't
there.
break anything.
No.
Okay, so then you go back.
I'm
Toys R Us would be on the left-hand side.
I know where they're at. I You used to live at 16 Union. It's a lot of bears. I used to walk that way all the time going to
Right,
the park.
right, he's got
I know
years of
exactly
footage.
what's going on.
It shows his house is here.
I still can't imagine that you couldn't get machinery.
This tree is in the white tree.
You're the one who brought it up.
Oh, there's a lot of it. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, they're in the right of way. Yeah, they're behind the sidewalk. The sidewalk's against the curb there.
The reason we have.
Here's one, any tree, no, they're not there yet. This is part of the subdivision.
In place because people just wanted to do
Doesn't want to
everything
plant
how
it
they
at all.
wanted to do it. And there was no conformity, there was no.
That's such a big
caring
area.
about Whatever, most of the time people said, well, I'm not gonna break those trees, I'm not gonna have a tree.
You know, I
And
would
again, there's
reduce
the
it to
reason,
two and still,
to me, it would fit in better with the park.
Say that again?
Same kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
With the other trees.
Last one's gonna ask Frank, because he said this wasn't the drawing on the trees on there, so.
When this was developed.
Right.
Like to rake leaves.
Frank,
Yes.
can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
But we had discussion on.
With the other properties that are here, do they have the trees that are required by the plan?
Okay, the one next to him will have one tree in, because there's two big ones in the front yard that were there
You know what I mean?
before, so there was one there. The other two lots have not been built on yet.
Okay.
This has not come up yet with these other two lots.
Okay, so on the original plans for this particular lot, he was supposed to get 5 trees.
Yes,
So
okay, but it's on the landscape plan.
responsibility. It's
Can I see that real quick?
I'll bring it up, Joe. I'll bring it
I
up.
didn't know I had to do that, I didn't know how to do that. And we have things that you are supposed to ask.
I think it's better if I see it like on the plans that
Developer.
you have there, rather than what I have.
Guys who told you, hey, this is what we need for approval, and it wouldn't have been approved without.
I had them, I X'd them out because they're right by a lot of them. So that meant they had to move them, okay?
Okay.
There's a lot of
And again, I'm just saying, you know,
sanitary movement, but it should.
what are we reduct 2 trees instead of 3 with that?
Yeah, where are the streetlights? Because they always plan on one.
Yeah, they do.
This doesn't show the streetlights on this plan.
You have the 2 in the front, you're saying?
And are-
And what are the 3 over here? Is that what you're saying?
There's some there. This is before.
Right.
I'm saying, well, but you wanted to put work back here, so
He never saw it. It's supposed to be.
All 4 lots.
one away with that big, with that big.
Right.
I understand.
So,
Play, let's make a deal here.
wouldn't the bins be-
I know.
Because I think he said that he can get.
I would say at least
It's, well, everywhere else in the town.
the size, I
14 feet, trust me, I got the warnings from Melissa. I live the dream. Can I ask, other than saying you can't get construction equipment in, is there any other reason why you don't want these trees?
I mean, preferably, I just don't prefer them on my property.
That one is, it has a
I mean,
tree out front.
historically, we require this for any development. I mean, I have them in front of my house.
And this one tree's right on the.
Not, wasn't very happy about it because one was actually planted right next to a light pole. And trust me, I had our code enforcement officer write me many beautiful letters stating that I needed to prune my trees because of snow plows and garbage trucks and such. It's one of those things, you know, where do you start and stop? I mean, if it was really impeding access to your property, I would agree. But because it is on a public street,
Is there, not trying to question anything, but is there a specific reason why this ordinance is in effect only for newer homes?
it's more environmental than anything else. What you're doing is you're taking away green space. So what we're trying to do is proportionately restore green space. Because if we were all concrete and macadam, there'd be nothing, you know what I mean? So it's about air quality, it's about the ecology, it's, you know, beautification. I mean, if every street didn't have a tree, it would just be a blank canvas, you know.
So it's more for aesthetics, not for,
It's more ecological, in my opinion. It's for, you know, the ecology of the earth. Because the less trees you have, the less oxygen and carbon dioxide's absorbed. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, but that's my belief. And that's why these things were put into play. by urban planners
So they're not Bradford pears.
decades ago.
And a lot of times when a new lot is developed somewhere off an existing tract, trees came down somewhere to create those new lots. So this gives it the ability to replace trees. That's why we have a shade tree in a committee in the township for, it looks at new development. You can't look at existing homes, but anything new that's developed, and that's.
I mean, I know some municipalities, if I could be perfectly frank with you, you go in and build a shopping center and they take down 300, hardwoods, they're required to put up 300 hardwoods somewhere. Just because you took away and now you gotta put back. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, they're a pain, but they're beautiful, when they bloom in the spring, they're beautiful, and they're maintenance, and they're trees. I mean,
When you built your house, were you able to see all of the plans, or did you, and this was on one of the original drafts, or? I know they don't go on every drawing
Right,
because
it's
of
part of the plan set, it's the last sheet in this set, which I volunteered up there, so.
They are on the original plans?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you get a set of drawings, there's multiple sheets.
Okay.
They're not on every sheet because of.
It gets too crowded.
There's just too much on the sheet, but there is usually one that actually just deals with landscaping, I think, or?
Sometimes they combine it with landscaping, grading, depends on the style of the plan preparer. This one in particular, they had landscaping just on one sheet. So that was the last sheet in the set. There's, the rest of the sheet has grading, utilities, existing features, construction details, erosion sedimentation controls, all those little details. And sometimes the designer will choose to drop those on a separate sheet just for clarity, so it doesn't look like a Where's Waldo plan.
All the sheets were listed here.
Yeah, and all the sheets are listed on the front, so it's assumed to be included.
I think we've been requiring this for about 40 years.
And you did pay for them.
The sidewalk
Some
on,
which way, right?
Yeah, some way, yeah.
sidewalk along Jordan, is it right up against the curb?
Yes.
Yeah, see here on this one plan, it's set back too, so.
Yeah, the plans we're looking at in front of us now are from 2010.
So I think the reason that the sidewalk was pushed to the curb is probably to permit the trees.
That's also what's in the
Well,
area.
I'm sorry, there was no sidewalk when I purchased the home. It was just grass. There was no sidewalk. It had to be put in when I built the home. So there
That's
was,
usually what happens when
Yeah.
when development
Yeah.
goes in, they'll put
On
the
that
sidewalk.
side of
yeah,
it, there's
so there was no
separate
sidewalk
that's why
there.
it's there. So that's why it's all.
What do you wanna do? You wanna take a look at it, or just- Sarah, do we take a vote on this, whether we want to?
Yeah, you could do it by motion.
Okay.
That would work.
You want a recommendation from the Shade Tree Committee?
You can speak.
Joe Wilfinger, Shade Tree Committee and Environmental Committee. I would recommend you accept the trees. They are actually to your benefit. They'll clean your air. You'll get cleaner air because you have traffic on the street. It'll take the pollution away. But also it's on the west side of your home, which means that's the prevailing wind. It'll break that wind. It'll be a significant effect on your heating bill. And in the summertime, a significant reduction in your air conditioning. A lot of people don't realize that because trees are some work for the property owner, but they are a significant there. And that's the reason they're in the ordinance, because there are significant savings to you. Plus, it's environmental impact. The environment is sheltered, so it's to your benefit to have them. Yeah, raking leaves is a pain in the butt, but it's for your benefit in the long run. So the little time you'll spend raking leaves or hiring somebody to do it, you'll make up in air conditioning and heating bills. So that's from the Shade Tree Committee. So,
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, Mario.
My second Mario Spagnol at 8351 Sumner Avenue. I'm also on the Environmental and the Shade Tree Committee. My colleague Joe, we've had planted trees by the hundreds. I mean, we want the township to have trees. I have trees at home, we all do. Now, you have the right to plant a tree in your yard or wherever it is private property. But on a right-of-way, if I'm not mistaken, the ordinance says that any new construction has to have trees on the right-of-way. Now, unless it lifts the sidewalk, or it's a hazard as far as traffic, or garbage trucks or fire trucks and upset, I would suggest you have them. Now, I mean, I think as the ordinance states, I think it states that you should have them in. So I'm not saying you could plant a tree 1,000 feet high or what, but I mean, there's street trees that we can plant that you don't really have any kind of a problem with them. But part of, just personal, why don't you want these trees there? Do you have any real, I mean,
It's a personal preference.
well, it's in front of the house, but as far as the right-of-way, that is a township problem too. Well, whatever the board decides, but to me, I just think anybody that don't want a tree, I don't know.
Is the issue, the main issue, that it's gonna be difficult to get construction vehicles or something into the back of your property?
Yeah, that was my initial.
Okay. Is there any way we can work with the placement of the tree there, Frank, or is it just a,
Yeah, you usually try to get them anywhere from 35 to 40 feet apart. If we can make adjustments, you know, that's never a problem. We usually make adjustments for underground laterals and things like that. And sometimes, depending on how tight the houses are, like for townhouse developments, a lot of times we can't even get a tree in. So, you know, it's a field condition and it's an adjustment, you know, that kind of thing. So.
maybe we can just look at that and see if we can get, you know, to maybe appease your concern there, and still put the trees in, but at least have some room for you to get around to the back. That works.
That was my main concern.
Okay. Want to take a vote? Should we take a vote, or I guess that seems the fairest way to do it?
Yeah, because not everyone has weighed in, I guess, so.
Okay.
I don't know what you're voting on, really.
Voting to either approve or deny the claim,
The request.
the request, yeah. Okay. So take a motion. Who wants to make a motion?
I'll
Jeff's making a motion. Anybody wants a second?
First, state your motion so we know how to.
I'm motioning that we vote on whether he should put trees in his.
We have to have an affirmative
Yes
or
or
a
no.
negative.
Yeah.
You know,
How about if I recommend a motion and somebody can then make it?
Okay.
I would recommend a motion to grant Mr. Fernandez's, that's hard to say, request to not plant the 3 street trees along Jordan Boulevard as shown on the plan. So, does that make sense?
Makes sense to
Could,
me.
could you read that again one more time, please?
It's written up here. A motion to grant Mr. Fernandez's request to not plant the 3 street trees along Jordan Boulevard as shown on the plan. So that's, yes means he's not planting the trees, no means he is.
No means you have to plant the trees.
Correct.
No means yes, yes means no.
1 second here.
See, these lawyers, they just like
I know.
That's why I wanted to go through it one more time.
Just based on it. No? Okay, I don't know if it's the thought.
Based on some whispering from your engineer, he suggested maybe we could revise the motion to allow the township staff to work with the property owner to adjust where the trees are planted to address his concern. So maybe that's a better motion.
How about we table that until that discussion happens, and we don't have to take a vote at all?
Okay,
I mean, to see what we can do.
They're not gonna be getting planted till spring, I would assume, under any circumstance.
okay.
Yeah.
If,
Probably just direct.
There is no motion on the floor yet.
What?
There's no motion to table yet.
Yeah, that's, well,
'Cause I can't
I'm
make
saying, right now it's a discussion item, so if we're,
Your motion is the better one to say yes or no. Okay, and then if they deny his motion to.
Can we just vote on it with the nuance that at the discretion of the township staff, they can adjust these trees to meet the homeowner's needs?
You can, yes. If the board votes to have the trees planted,
Yes.
then the township staff could make that adjustment.
As long as it's understood that the staff would not, for example, the staff would have input as to where they could be located, giving discretion to the homeowner's desire. But for example, if he says, well, okay, you can put them right next to each other back in that corner, that may not satisfy the desire that the board expressed when this Shade Tree Commission was created.
I would recommend.
So I think we had to have some leeway here.
I would recommend that any staff adjustments be in accordance with the ordinance, which requires 30 to 40 feet between the trees.
Right.
Can't we just, without going through votes and motions, can't we just direct Frank to go out and it needs 3 trees in the front and figure out a spacing with the homeowner?
Do that, but I think the homeowner's requesting relief from trees being
trees
planted at all.
altogether.
I think you have to move on that, like Sarah originally said, and then we go from
yes, sir, if you want to speak, you got to come up and give your name, address.
I'm David Rothrock. I live at 226 Grape Street, Whitehall. The question I have for you, sir, where's your storage come in and your water line come in? And if you have gas, where does it come in at? Off of,
The water and the sewage comes off of Jordan.
it comes off of Jordan. So the trees aren't gonna affect you in any way as far as that's concerned.
I don't know.
Because I know in my property, I had to dig up the street because the trees went around the pipes and cracked them. So that's a thing that you have to take into consideration. Where are the utilities coming into that house?
Yeah, I understand, and I think part of the newer development are the trees that are being planted don't have the roots that go down that far, and they're more street trees than those old giant oaks
Yeah,
that
they're
we used to-
cultivated to be a street tree.
we
Plus,
used to plant
a
years
one
ago.
call's already been done, so we know
Yeah.
where the utilities are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Just so that he doesn't end up with
Yeah,
a problem
absolutely.
10 years down the road.
Right.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna take the vote?
Yes.
Jeff, you got a motion? Do I have a
Yes.
second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
I'm, okay. This motion is, again, I just want to be clear here. It's so that, are we voting that he still has to put in trees, but we can have some discretion on where they go?
His
I
request is to not put the trees in. So the motion is to grant his request.
Correct. And then if this board denies his request, we could then consider if the township could make some adjustments to where the trees are placed.
Absolutely.
Do the motion first.
Got it.
Okay. Commissioner Dutt,
No.
Commissioner Clary? Nay. Commissioner Warren?
No.
Commissioner Swaniger? No. Commissioner Ginder?
No.
Commissioner Marks?
No.
And President Hauer.
No.
Motion is defeated, 7 noes, 0 ayes.
So we will work with the township and see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Board of Commissioners reports, we'll start with Mr. Marks.
I just want to thank the staff, Chief Marks, Chief Nelson, and their fine men and women for another wonderful year. And happy holidays to everyone. I don't know if anyone noticed here, but we have a saluting general out front. A new Christmas light was introduced by Mr. Rackus. I think it's wonderful. I'd like to thank the Rackuses for all their hard work. I'd especially like to thank Larissa and Mike. They were put in a pretty sticky situation earlier in the year. Very commendable job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Larissa, You did a great job. I know there was a lot of challenges there. Jack, Sarah, Frank, our treasurer, thank you all. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Oh, and especially our board president,
Thank you.
Mr. Dennis Howe.
Well, you're going through a whole list and you missed me. Commissioner Dutt?
First of all, thank you to everyone from administration, the mayor, deputy mayor, all the department heads, Lee, and to all employees, each of the departments for township for another great year. Big thank you to all the volunteers in our township. Without you guys and all the volunteers, our township wouldn't run and get not very much done. Thank you to my fellow commissioners for working together beyond party lines. And I think that we make this township run really well, and I think we should be a model for other commissions and boards around us on how we work together. Thank you to all the citizens of Whitehall for all of your input and participation in all our events, meetings, and different town halls that we've had in the past year. We'll be looking for more participation and volunteers in the coming year. And I wish you all a joyous holiday season and a happy new year. And I'm looking forward to bigger and better things in 2019. Thank you.
Commissioner Ginder?
One question. Jack, we had paid a consultant a while back on the Pryden Farm. Did we get any contact with him?
We have not as of yet, no.
Have we gone after his tail?
We're about to.
Okay, so everything's in the works, all right.
Yep.
I wish to thank this table over here. Jack, it's just amazing what you do in a year to help us get through all of this. All the department heads, all the employees, all the volunteers. It's just been another year where everything's come in below budget. As bad as things were sometimes, somehow all the employees and staff, the mayor, the administration, they managed to get it done, no matter how bad it is. And to come in under budget again, you just can't do any better. We're very fortunate in Whitehall to have the people we have working for this municipality and the volunteers we have. I wish to say happy holidays to everybody and the best of health in the new year. And from there, I'll pass it on.
Question, with the new street lights, brand new one, have you found something where there's more problems with them? Because I went down Grape Street a couple of weeks ago in the middle of the morning, and 3 of them were out in a row. And going around, I see some that brighten up and then they dim, and they keep going back and forth. And again, I'm just asking.
There are a few of the main thoroughfares, principal among them by Gilboy, where there's one on Flash. We just got delivery on November 16th for the 110 watt, which are the highest LEDs, which are on Grape Street, MacArthur Road, and so forth. Some of those have yet to be installed yet. They have to schedule and make sure that they have traffic control for those things. But yeah, those still have to be done yet.
Well, and again, it was just, you can really tell when they're out. I mean,
absolutely.
It was really dark, and I just didn't know if there was a problem.
Let us know where and when so that we can deal with it.
You want me to call you on a Saturday?
I want you to call me middle of the morning. That would be even better.
Okay, you got it. When they're still out, okay. Yeah, and just like everyone else, thanks to the administration, the employees, the volunteers, and people like yourselves out here that come and are concerned about the township. I mean, this is an effort for everybody. It's not just something that, we're up here and we decide what's going on. No, it doesn't work like that. We need as much input on everything that you can give us so that we know what needs to be fixed or what we're doing a good job at. So, and happy holidays, because we're not allowed to say just Christmas, but I thought I wore this to blend in with the trees that are in here. So
Trees. You said trees.
Yeah. No.
Well, I'll try not to be too redundant, but I just want to thank, after 1 year on the board, I just want to thank everybody, and all these gentlemen up here for all the guidance, and everybody who works for the township. What a great group. I often tell people I had no idea the amount of work that went on in a day or a week around here until you see it, and you see the special people that get things done here, and it's remarkable. And you guys should be really proud of the individuals that work here, because they work really, really hard for you. And I'm so impressed, and I often tell everybody how impressed I am, and I would never have thought that. Being a guy who grew up here and spent most of my life in Whitehall, I never would have thought that. So I'm really impressed, really proud of the community we live in and what we have here, and I'm really proud of the work that these gentlemen do up here, and women as well. So happy holidays, everybody. I'm going to say Merry Christmas. Yeah, I'm saying it. And hopefully 2019 is a much better year, for sure.
Commissioner Warren?
I'll be really short. Everybody said everything that needs to be said. I mean, we have a great staff, great volunteers. This is my first year on the board, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the board. It's a board that doesn't always vote in unison, but everybody respects each other. Having opportunity to dig into the budget, everybody takes their job serious in this township, and it's always an eye on the future and how we can make the township better. So I wish everybody happy holidays.
I see there are a lot of people in the audience, and the way we usually run these meetings is that we have a courtesy of the floor, which requires you to sign in before you give the courtesy of the floor. And since a lot of people did not speak tonight, I'm going to assume that there is a group of people here that want to speak on a subject. Yes. So if you want to be the lead on that, come up, please give your name and address, and
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
let us have it.
My name's Gary Ward. I live at 102 Franklin Street here in Whitehall. I live at the corner of Front and Franklin. And there's a variance that Riverside Business Center wants to put in reefer trucks down at the old Tarquette plant. And we have a concern, and that's why all these people are here, because I went around and knocked on all these doors and asked them to show up tonight, because I thought this was going to be on the docket and brought up, and that's what the one notice said was going to be heard tonight. So that's why everybody's here. But I do have some concerns, and I got some safety issues that I'd like to bring up real quickly. First of all, when I brought up the hearings and discussions, it says that for us to get a notice, it has to be within 500 feet of what's going to happen. If you look at where I live, I'm not 500 feet of where these trucks are going to be parked, but it is going to affect me and the rest of the neighbors that are here tonight. So I think we should be notified also when variances like this occur. I just wanted to bring that up, because if you really go down and look to see where these trucks are going to be, they are affecting me, and they're going to affect a lot of property owners. But saying that, let me just say this, is that it is our understanding and my understanding that these trucks, they're what the old Tarquette and those businesses down there want, especially Benaway, I guess it's called, they want to have reefer trucks down there. And not only the reefer trucks, but also those are the refrigeration trucks, okay? They want to park them up at the upper end on Front Street, closer to Front and Franklin, okay? That's where they want to park these trucks. It's my understanding. And if that happens, the people that live up in that area and along Front Street, right across from the Riverside Business Center, they're going to hear all that noise all night long. They want to run these trucks 24 hours a day. So we're going to hear all that noise, all right? Not only that, not only are they going to run the reefers, it's our understanding they're going to run those diesel engines all night too. So not only are we going to hear the refrigeration, we're going to hear the trucks. We're going to hear those diesel engines. We're going to smell that diesel fuel. That affects us. And on top of that, we're going to get more truck traffic, not only on Front and Franklin Street, but it goes up to Grape Street, it goes up to 2nd Street, it goes over to Orchard Drive. And I know you guys, when I live on the corner and I sit out on my deck, we have traffic jams on Front Street now because of all the tractor trailers that come into the old Tarquette plant now. It's horrendous. It really is. We had an accident this past summer. A guy was hit on a motorcycle because there's only a two-way stop sign here, and people just drive right through it. You got trucks coming up there. They can't make the hill in the wintertime. That's one issue. Another issue is that, you know, when you're sitting out there in the springtime, the summertime, or early fall, and you're sitting on your deck or your patio, I don't think any of you want to be smelling those diesel engines or hearing those reefer trucks all, you know, during the evening. But we're going to have to. There's a safety problem. We have a school bus that stops right there, picking kids up. We have a lot of kids in our neighborhood. And when those tractor trailers come up there, trust me when I tell you this, they're not doing the speed limit. They're not taking their time. They are hauling you know what. They're moving, all right? Especially in the wintertime. They cannot make it up the hill if there's snow on the ground, all right? Also, along with that, by them asking for this variance, and if you would accept that, I don't know what it does for the township. I don't know how that brings in extra money to this township, because it doesn't. Because what's going to happen in the long run is that our property values are going to go down tremendously. It's a trickle-down effect. There's a guy that lives on East Penn Lane. There's a house in the back. His name is Bill. They want trucks to go down that little alley. They want to take property away from Gene Dorsey, which he lives up front, to get smaller, you know, trucks in there to park in that parking lot. So we're asking you, that's why all these people showed up here tonight. We're asking you not to let this go through, not to change the law in any way that would put more trucks down there. So we're asking you that, you know, tonight, and, you know, if we have to come again, we will, and voice our opinions again, is that this does not benefit the township, but it hurts the neighborhood. It's going to hurt the residents of Whitehall. That's what it does.
Sarah?
Sure. This project was on the zoning hearing board agenda last month, and it was continued to this month's hearing, which is next Tuesday, December 18th, before the zoning hearing board. And that is for a request for variance relief.
It says December 10th.
Well,
It's just changed.
well, but it's on the zoning hearing board agenda for next Tuesday, and then it's on the commissioner's agenda for next month, for January 14th, for a conditional use hearing before
The
this board.
notice, because I didn't get the notice,
It
but the
was-
notice that was posted at the Target plant, I have it right in front of me, it says December 10th.
It was initially tonight, but then when they continued their zoning hearing, it also continued the conditional
But
use
this is
hearing.
what I'm saying, we're not getting notified of the changes. That's our concern, we didn't get notified.
Right.
And
Hold on.
Mrs.
hold on.
Rackus.
And I
Mrs.
understand
Rackus,
where
you
it
wanna
says the
speak on this?
500 feet.
Right, okay.
I understand that.
Two things. It was on the zoning hearing board last month, and if it would have been decided at the zoning hearing board, it would have been before us tonight.
Correct.
Because they continued it, it'll be next
January
Tuesday night
14th,
here.
yes.
The notices that go out, we follow the law, the current law. We've had this issue in the past where some people got notices, some people didn't, but we always follow the law. Just so you know, listen, please, we want you to come back. We want you to give us.
Well, I'll be here,
Well,
you know.
and really, to be honest with you, I think you should really go to the zoning hearing board. And definitely show up to the zoning hearing board, because they're, whatever they decide then comes to us.
Right.
So if it doesn't get through at the zoning hearing board, it's not even gonna come to us,
And
so,
those are hearings with a court reporter.
Yes.
So you want to get it on the record.
I understand that. I mean,
so.
my concern tonight is that part of the law comes to you, and part of the zoning that I read, the 500 feet is done here. Is that correct or not?
Let me correct.
Yeah.
There is no requirement in any ordinance anywhere that we give out individual notices. It's done as a courtesy, and the typical boundary was within 500 feet. However, saying that, I just, everybody that's here, if you want, put your name and address, we'll make sure that we send out notices to you.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, if you just fill it out, because once you request it, then we will notify you of all the meetings. So if you want to be notified of all the meetings, then just fill this out.
And the January hearing is not scheduled to be published in the newspaper until December 27th and January 3rd. So it's very likely those notices were not yet mailed.
And if I hesitate to put email because we still do it all by snail mail, but if you want to put your email down, everything's still kind of fluid. We don't know. Maybe they will proceed with it, maybe they won't. But if we have your email, then we can let you know sooner than later.
Right, and we can let you know if it's pulled from the agenda.
And I just want to point out, I was at the zoning hearing board meeting, and they asked, the other party asked for a continuance. It had nothing to do with the township.
Correct.
So the way the dates fall, unfortunately, fall near the holiday. That is out of our control, because they had asked for that continuance. So this is really, the onus isn't on the township, the onus is on the men and women who are making this proposal.
But I would definitely encourage everyone to come to that meeting on Tuesday, okay?
Thank you.
You got it?
Thank you.
Yes, sir, you gotta come up, if you're gonna speak, you gotta come up and speak into the mic.
Again, I'm David Rothrock. I live at 226 Grape Street, Whitehall. Most of you people would have been young kids when this issue first came up here in Whitehall, when it was GAF and Tarquette. We were here in this building, 2 o'clock in the morning, about the truck traffic. Now, is that what's going to happen again? Do I have to bring my pillow here?
It very well could be. We've been part of those meetings that lasted.
Well, like I said, some of these guys looked like they were probably kids back then. So that we were here, you know.
I'm very aware of the old Tarquette building. I grew up on Catasauqua
But
Road.
like I said, I
know
live on
exactly
Grape
what you're talking
Street,
about. Yep.
And what Gary had said about the noise.
Yeah.
Now, I was just told by a truck driver yesterday that it's against the law, federal law,
It is.
to let the.
You cannot run more than 5 minutes.
Right.
There's a federal idling law that you cannot run them more than 5 minutes.
And we actually have a township ordinance that doesn't even allow property owners to let, like the Walmart property. All these parking lots are posted now where they're not allowed to leave trucks
Sitting
there.
idle.
They're not allowed to leave them running. So, I mean, that's gonna have an impact on this decision.
And again,
Does that, excuse me, does that cover the reefers?
That covers anything.
Covers every truck.
Any tractor trailer or combination,
Well,
you know, diesel powered.
the idling refers to the tractor itself.
Right.
Most of those reefer trailers run on their own electrics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be faced with that noise all night long.
And the fumes.
Yes.
Well, again, I haven't seen the proposal. It hasn't gotten to our level yet, but we will certainly take everyone's voice into account.
That's all I have.
You
Thank
got it. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, one in the back.
Mr. Newhart? Sorry.
And where you live.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny, how the hell you doing?
There you
Used to work with him down at Bethlehem Steel.
Oh, jeez.
February 26, 73. First day at Bethlehem Steel together. I'm Kent Newhart. I live at 1022 8th Street in Whitehall. And I'm up here for the familiar topic of Watikta. But in doing more research, and I have met with the mayor and I met with Lee, and the first thing Watikta wants to pledge for 2019 is cooperation, putting everybody in touch with one another, better communication, and things like that. But I cannot stop beating this horse about where we're trying to go and what it may take in funding. But one of our members found this article written in April 29th of 1984. And I know some of you weren't born. And so what we have here is the Development Authority began in February of '74 under then Township Manager Joseph Maroney. Said its purpose would be to promote, attract, stimulate, rehabilitate, and revitalize industry and commerce in the township. Said the authority intended to boost development in the township by advertising the advantages businesses would gain by locating in Whitehall. But so far the authority, this is written in '84, 10 years later. Last year the authority spent only $4,000 to print and mail to businesses across the United States about 6,000 four-page brochures promoting Whitehall as the place to be. After the Township Board of Commissioners voted to incorporate the then commission. Now when industry inquires about moving into the township, we have a group of people who can show and explain the advantages of the township to them. But the authority to this day has no employee or volunteer whose duties are to aggressively entice business to the township, a deficiency that may have resulted in businesses passing over Whitehall and locating elsewhere that impairs the ability of current township developers to sell their properties to potential buyers. And then it goes on to explain how more than half of the money that they found through things that were available through their funding went outside of the township. How many things could have been done either by LVDC that were outside, but what we're trying to say is why we want the authority to grow through its cooperation and leadership and funding of our authority is to be the group who aggressively seeks business. I believe we're currently in a situation where we do a great job of those who seek us, but there's no one actively out seeking business to come to the township that has a budget that's supportive of. I can't even imagine how we would fund doing a mailer of a 4-page brochure telling people why they should come to Whitehall on a $19,000 a year annual budget, and our insurance probably chews up almost half of that money. So it only leaves the remainder for any sort of development to do what our job was set out to be in '74. So here we are, 24 3/4 years later, and we haven't stepped forward, and I think it's time. And we hope that during 19 we get your support for additional funding. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Ken. Okay, anyone else? We're all good? Yes, ma'am, you have to come up and state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name's Lenora Martucci Johnson, 754 Mickley Road in Whitehall. I've lived there like 60-some years. Actually, my mother worked for the township. I was wondering, okay, now I work for liquor licensing, and with all the trouble that's going on with the social clubs in Fullerton, most likely the Fullerton Fire Company is going to be closed. Now, that's not by authority, it's just by a lot of things. What will we do with our fire trucks? Will they stay in that building?
I believe they're totally separate entities, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't rent space from that?
No.
Okay, that's what the fire chief told me last year. We pay rent to the social club for where we place our fire trucks. That's what I was told. I know their social clubs have nothing to do with Whitehall.
Every year we contribute several $1,000s to each station for allowing us to use.
Well, what if
it.
they close? Do we keep the building then?
The building is owned by the fire hall.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. So what happens if they close? Which they're probably going to. That's pretty much said.
I don't know where you got that information.
From the LCB. They're gonna be pulling their license.
Doesn't necessarily mean they'll close.
Well, how would they operate without a liquor license?
Have food, they have a bank.
Oh, okay, all right, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, that's fine, I just wanted to mention it. Because they just got a whole lot of violations for discrimination against women, and I know that has nothing to do with Whitehall Township. I was just wondering what we do with our trucks then.
Yeah. We have
Okay.
another department that doesn't have a bar, so to speak. That
What- what-
Egypt doesn't have a functioning bar, doesn't
Oh,
have a
okay,
liquor
so
license.
the Whitehall still has the building then? Or can rent the building?
No.
That's my question, I'm just curious.
I'm looking it up right now.
Is it making sense? I'm only talking about the
It's
fire
making
trucks.
sense, and I think that they're privately owned entities from which we are provided space.
Okay.
This is not a problem we've confronted in the past, and we would have to look seriously at the circumstance you're
That's what I'm
defining
saying, I
to us
don't
now.
think everybody here knows what's going on.
Well,
And
I
what's
know-
going on is a whole long story we don't want to talk about.
I know,
But I'm
I
just
don't.
talking about the trucks. Like, are we allowed to rent them, or does somebody, they own the building?
That- We own all the equipment
Okay, but we rent the building.
for a marginal amount of money.
Okay. All right. Just was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I just, if you would care to give me a call, I'd be very interested to speak with you about it.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. And I might note that your mother was a wonderful person who worked with me for 8 years, and you couldn't have found a better person.
Okay, no one else? Just to give an ending of the Commissioner's reports, I just want to reiterate what everybody else said. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. I'm going to say them all. Is there anything else I missed?
Christmas.
And Christmas, well, I'm just saying, we're getting through all of them. Again, the staff here does such a great job, and I reiterate before, every year we sit down and do that budget, and every year our departments come in under budget, and that's very hard to do in today's day and age, and it does not go unappreciated. I also want to thank our Public Works Department. If you had to drive through this area, please note that the issues were not our issues. We did the best we could with the deficiencies of the, let's say it, PennDOT. So, I mean, again, I appreciate the township. I know it was a mess, and but our staff did a great job in the face of all that mess. So, I want to thank them for their commendable job. They put a lot of hours in and did a fantastic job. So, with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
I'll be brief. Everything you said is all true. The staff is great. The board is by far the best board I've ever worked with. You guys get along, you work together, and everybody's working for the benefit of the community, and I appreciate the opportunity to be working with you. Couple things that got mentioned here. The snowstorm may springboard our argument to get Fifth Street Bridge back into the project that we're confronting now with the widening of 22, and we're going to be moving forward. I've sent information off to Chris Kufro, who is the District 5 administrator, and we're going to be working hard to try to get that dealt with. A couple other things I wanted to mention, but I think everybody's had about enough tonight. So thank you all for the opportunity, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and everything that goes with it.
Thank you. Before we go to the treasurer's report, I have one other announcement, is that our L&L meeting for this Wednesday will be canceled. There's nothing on the agenda. Merry Christmas, Lee. So. Treasurer's report?
With all the transition and the changes in the tax office, treasurer's office this year, I want to thank the board and the administration for being patient with me. Thank you all. But by the beginning of the year, we will be back on track, as strong as we need to be. The township's in good financial shape, as you all said. You know, we all come in under budget and everything else. But Merry Christmas, everybody.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Talk to Mick about the bridge. It wasn't ever turned off, but we need to. Yeah.
Mr. Howard, you didn't point out your favorite commissioner in your little speech.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to embarrass me.